The crystal formations of Xerion Prime sparkled under the twin suns, casting dancing shadows across the hunting grounds where the galaxy's most elite predators gathered. Commander Zethrak of the Vorthak Empire adjusted his ceremonial hunting cloak, the scales along his reptilian neck rising with anticipation. Today marked the beginning of the Centennial Hunt, a tradition that brought together the fiercest warriors from dozens of species across the known galaxy. The hunting lodge stood as a monument to predatory excellence, its walls decorated with trophies from 1,000 worlds. Massive skulls of extinct megafauna hung beside preserved carapaces of sentient prey species that had fallen to the skill of previous hunters. The air hummed with the excited chatter of beings who had earned their place here through centuries of successful hunts. Zethrak's 4 eyes scanned the gathering crowd, noting the familiar faces of legendary hunters. There was Krexel the Destroyer, whose chitinous exoskeleton bore scars from battles across the Andromeda Spiral. The towering Goliathan warrior Thos stood near the trophy wall, his stone-like skin gleaming under the artificial lights. Even the ethereal psionic collective had sent representatives, their translucent forms shimmering with barely contained psychic energy. Brothers and sisters of the hunt, boomed the voice of Grand Huntmaster Vex, his massive form commanding attention from the center of the lodge. The ancient Corthanian's hide showed the weathered gray of countless campaigns, and his collection of hunting honors clinked softly as he moved. We gather once again to honor the sacred tradition that binds us across species and star systems. The crowd fell silent, showing the respect due to one whose hunting prowess had become legend. Vex had personally accounted for the extinction of 17 different species, each one a masterwork of predatory skill. His methods were studied in military academies and hunting schools throughout the civilized galaxy. As always, we begin with the selection of prey, Vex continued, gesturing toward a massive holographic display that materialized above the gathering. Our scouts have identified promising hunting grounds across 12 different sectors. Each offers unique challenges and rewards for those skilled enough to claim them. The display cycled through various worlds and species. Desert planets where crystalline entities fed on solar radiation. Ocean worlds teeming with massive leviathans capable of swallowing starships whole. Jungle planets where every plant and animal had evolved deadly toxins and camouflage abilities. However, Vex said, his tone taking on an almost amused quality, this year brings us a special opportunity. A newly discovered species has recently achieved interstellar travel. They call themselves humans. A ripple of laughter passed through the crowd. The name itself sounded almost comical when pronounced in galactic standard. Several hunters exchanged knowing glances, already imagining the ease of such a hunt. These creatures hail from a small blue planet in an unremarkable system. Vex continued, manipulating the display to show Earth spinning slowly in space. Initial reports suggest they are bipedal mammals with no natural weapons, no chitinous armor, no venomous glands, and no psychic abilities. Their technology appears to be roughly 3 centuries behind our own. Krexel clicked his mandibles dismissively. Primitives, hardly worthy prey for warriors of our caliber. Indeed, agreed Thos, his voice rumbling like grinding stone. Where is the honor in hunting defenseless mammals? We might as well hunt the grazing herds of Pistoria. But Grand Huntmaster Vex raised a clawed hand for silence. Do not be so quick to dismiss them, young ones. These humans have one interesting characteristic that sets them apart from other primitive species we have encountered. The display zoomed in on Earth, showing various scenes of human civilization. Cities sprawling across continents. Massive machines reshaping landscapes. Vehicles racing across land, sea, and air. They are remarkably aggressive for prey animals, Vex explained. In their brief history, they have fought countless wars among their own kind. They have developed weapons far beyond what their general technology level would suggest. Most interesting of all, they refuse to be tamed or domesticated, even by superior forces. This information caused a few hunters to lean forward with increased interest. Aggressive prey could provide better sport, though the technological disadvantage still made them seem hardly challenging. Their recent expansion into space has been rapid, Vex continued. In just 50 of their years, they have established colonies on dozens of worlds. They show no fear of the unknown and seem to thrive in environments that would kill most other species. A new voice spoke up from the crowd. What are their military capabilities? This came from Hunter Captain Nexus of the Machine Collective, her cybernetic implants gleaming as she processed data streams. Crude but numerous, Vex replied. They rely heavily on projectile weapons that fire small metal slugs at high velocity. Primitive, but they have refined these weapons to surprising effectiveness. They also employ various explosive devices and have recently developed energy-based weapons, though these are still in early stages. Projectiles, laughed Krexel. My personal shields could deflect their entire arsenal without strain. And their numbers? Asked another hunter. Approximately 8 billion on their home world, with another 2 billion spread across their colonies, Vex answered. They reproduce quickly and seem to have little regard for individual survival when their communities are threatened. This caused some murmuring among the hunters. Large numbers could complicate a hunt, but they also meant more trophies for those skilled enough to claim them. I propose, said Hunter Zethrak, stepping forward, that these humans would make excellent practice for our newer hunters. A way to build confidence before tackling more dangerous prey. Several veteran hunters nodded in agreement. The idea had merit. Young hunters needed to develop their skills on appropriate targets, and these primitive humans seemed perfect for such training. An interesting suggestion, Vex mused. However, I have decided that the humans will serve as the primary target for this centennial hunt. The lodge erupted in surprised voices. Primary target meant the most prestigious hunt of the gathering, traditionally reserved for the most dangerous and worthy prey species. Huntmaster, protested Thos, surely you jest. These primitives cannot possibly warrant such honor. The decision has been made, Vex said firmly, his authority silencing the protests. Those who wish may participate in the human hunt. Those who find it beneath them may pursue other targets. But I suspect the humans will provide more challenge than any of you expect. Over the following days, the hunters studied intelligence reports on human settlements, military installations, and behavioral patterns. The consensus remained that the humans would be easy prey, though a few details gave some hunters pause. The humans seemed to have an unusual relationship with their environment. Rather than adapting to different worlds, they changed those worlds to suit their needs. They had turned frozen wastelands into garden paradises and transformed toxic planets into thriving colonies. This suggested a level of determination and ingenuity that went beyond simple technological advancement. Their military history was also puzzling. Despite being a relatively young species, they had developed incredibly sophisticated tactics and strategies. Their wars showed evidence of complex planning, innovative thinking, and a willingness to sacrifice everything for victory. Some of their historical battles demonstrated tactical brilliance that impressed even veteran hunters. Most disturbing was their apparent lack of a proper surrender instinct. In every documented conflict, there were examples of humans fighting to the death rather than accepting defeat. They seemed to have no concept of honorable submission to superior force. Fanaticism, dismissed Krexel when this was discussed. Primitive minds cannot comprehend the futility of resistance against superior beings. Once they see our power, they will break like all prey animals. But Hunter Captain Nexus was less certain. Her analysis of human technological development showed an alarming pattern of rapid adaptation and improvement under pressure. They appear to learn from conflict, she reported. Each war, each battle, each engagement teaches them new methods. They improve their weapons, their tactics, their strategies with remarkable speed. All prey animals adapt, Zethrak pointed out. It means nothing. Adaptation without superior genetics and technology only delays the inevitable. The hunting parties began forming as the various species chose their approaches to the human hunt. The Vorthak Empire decided on a direct assault approach, using overwhelming force to crush human resistance quickly. The Machine Collective planned to infiltrate human computer networks and turn their own technology against them. The Goliathan warriors preferred ground combat, confident their superior strength and armor would make them unstoppable. Only a few hunters chose to study human culture and psychology more deeply. These were considered overly cautious by their peers, but they had noticed something troubling in the intelligence reports. Humans were tool users in ways that went far beyond other species. While most intelligent beings use tools to supplement their natural abilities, humans seem to have evolved specifically to create and use tools. Their entire biology supported fine manipulation, complex thinking, and rapid adaptation to new implements. They weren't just primitive beings with crude weapons. They were a species designed by evolution to be the ultimate tool users. This realization came too late for most hunters to reconsider their plans. The centennial hunt was about to begin, and participants were already departing for human space. The general consensus remained that this would be a brief and one-sided conflict. The first target selected was the human colony of New Melbourne, a farming settlement on the edge of human space. Intelligence suggested it had minimal defenses and only about 50,000 inhabitants. Perfect for testing human responses without significant risk. Hunter Zethrak commanded the Vorthak assault force, consisting of 3 heavy cruisers and 2 destroyer escorts. The plan was simple: destroy any orbital defenses, land ground forces, and capture the colony within 6 hours. The surviving humans would provide trophies and information about other targets. As the Vorthak ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the New Melbourne system, they expected to find a lightly defended agricultural world with perhaps a few patrol boats and basic warning systems. What they found instead caused considerable confusion among the hunting fleet. The planet was surrounded by a network of satellites and monitoring stations. Defensive platforms orbited at strategic points, their weapons trained outward toward likely attack vectors. Most surprising of all, 3 human warships were already moving to intercept positions, having somehow detected the Vorthak arrival almost immediately. "Impossible," growled Zethrak from his command throne. "Our intelligence said this was a farming colony with minimal defenses." "Sir," reported his sensor operator, "the human ships are transmitting a message on our diplomatic frequencies." "Put it through," Zethrak ordered, curious to hear what these primitives thought they could accomplish with words. The voice that came through the speakers was calm and professional, speaking accented but clear galactic standard. "Unknown vessels, this is Captain Sarah Chun of the UES Determination. You have entered New Melbourne territorial space. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." Zethrak laughed, his vocal cords producing the characteristic hissing sound of Vorthak amusement. "Primitive creature, you dare to challenge the might of the Vorthak Empire? Surrender now, and your deaths will be swift." There was a pause before the human captain responded. "I see. You're here for the hunt the galaxy's been talking about. Well, you picked the wrong farmers to mess with. All New Melbourne ships, engage hostile contacts. Protect the colony at all costs." What followed was the first real lesson the hunters would learn about humans. The 3 human ships, massively outgunned and outnumbered, immediately attacked. They didn't attempt to flee, negotiate further, or buy time for reinforcements. They simply charged straight into the Vorthak formation, their weapons blazing with desperate fury. Their ships were smaller and less advanced, but they moved with precision and coordination that suggested extensive training and preparation. The lead human ship, the Determination, fired everything it had at Zethrak's flagship before breaking off to attack one of the destroyers. The other human ships worked in perfect coordination, covering each other's movements and focusing their fire on specific targets rather than spreading it uselessly across the enemy formation. "Sir," called the tactical officer, "the humans are using some kind of kinetic bombardment weapons. They're firing solid projectiles at extreme velocity." Zethrak watched with growing respect as the human ships continued their hopeless attack. Their shields failed one by one under the overwhelming Vorthak firepower, but they fought until their ships were reduced to burning hulks. Even then, the wreckage of one human ship deliberately rammed into a Vorthak destroyer, causing significant damage. "Fascinating," Zethrak murmured as the last human ship was destroyed. They knew they could not win, yet they fought anyway. But the real surprise was yet to come. As the Vorthak ships moved toward the planet to begin their assault, the surface of New Melbourne suddenly bristled with weapons. Missile batteries that had been hidden underground revealed themselves, launching dozens of projectiles toward the attacking fleet. The missiles were crude by Vorthack standards, but there were so many of them that even superior point defense systems were overwhelmed. Several missiles got through, causing minor damage to the Vorthack ships. "The entire planet is a fortress," reported the sensor operator with amazement. "They have weapon emplacements hidden across the surface, underground bunkers, and, sir, I'm detecting several hundred smaller vessels launching from concealed bases." Zethrak leaned forward in his command throne, studying the tactical display with new interest. The humans had turned their agricultural colony into a military stronghold, hiding their defenses so well that Vorthack intelligence had completely missed them. The smaller human vessels were little more than flying bombs, single-seat craft loaded with explosives and piloted by volunteers willing to die for their colony. They swarmed toward the Vorthack ships like angry insects, too numerous and small to be stopped by heavy weapons. "This changes everything," Zethrak realized as he watched the desperate human defense unfold. These weren't the helpless prey animals he had expected. They were warriors who had been preparing for this moment, who had built their entire settlement around the assumption that someone would eventually come to destroy them. The battle for New Melbourne would last 3 days instead of the planned 6 hours, and, when it was over, the Vorthack hunting fleet would be reduced to a single damaged cruiser. They would achieve their objective of conquering the colony, but at a cost that stunned the entire hunting community. As news of the battle spread throughout the galaxy, the hunters' casual confidence began to transform into something approaching respect. These humans were not the easy prey they had appeared to be. But the real lesson was still to come, and it would be delivered by a single human with a rifle, somewhere in the depths of human space, where the hunters would learn that sometimes the prey fought back with skills that exceeded even their own. The emergency council convened aboard Grand Huntmaster Vex's flagship, the massive dreadnought Apex Predator. Representatives from every major hunting faction gathered in the war room, their previous confidence replaced by grim determination and, in some cases, barely concealed worry. Hunter Captain Nexus projected tactical displays showing the aftermath of 6 different hunting operations across human space. Each one told the same story. What should have been simple raids had become costly battles of attrition. The humans weren't just fighting back, they were fighting smart. The Goliathan assault on Terra and Nova resulted in 68% casualties, she reported, her cybernetic voice carrying undertones of disbelief. The humans had somehow acquired detailed intelligence on Goliathan physiology and equipped their forces with weapons specifically designed to penetrate stone-based armor. Thas, the Goliathan representative, shifted uncomfortably in his reinforced chair. His usually impenetrable hide showed fresh scars from the Terra Nova engagement. "They used some kind of drilling ammunition," he rumbled. "Projectiles that burrowed through armor plating before exploding internally. How did primitives develop such specific countermeasures?" Grand Huntmaster Vex studied the data streams flowing across multiple displays. The pattern was becoming clear, and it was deeply disturbing. The humans weren't reacting to the hunt with the panic and disorganization typical of prey species. Instead, they were treating it as a war and adapting their tactics with frightening speed. "Show them the psionic collective incident," Vex ordered. Nexus called up another display, this one showing the ruins of what had once been a human research station orbiting a gas giant. The engagement had lasted only minutes, but the implications were staggering. The collective attempted a standard psychic domination assault, Nexus explained. They expected to overwhelm the primitive human minds and turn them into willing servants. Instead, we discovered that approximately 1 in 10,000 humans is naturally resistant to psychic influence. Interrupted Echo of Distant Stars, the collective's representative. Her translucent form flickered with residual shock. More disturbing, their scientists had somehow developed technological countermeasures. They call them psi-blockers, crude but effective devices that disrupt psychic abilities. Krexel clicked his mandibles nervously. Impossible. No species develops psychic countermeasures without first encountering psychic threats. These humans had no previous contact with such abilities. Yet they had the countermeasures ready, Echo replied. "We lost 17 of our most skilled mind weavers in that single engagement." The humans fought with a coordination and determination that suggested they had somehow been preparing for our specific capabilities. The room fell silent, as the implications sank in. The hunters were facing an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move, developing specific countermeasures for abilities and tactics that should have been completely unknown to them. There's more. Nexus continued, calling up a new display. Analysis of human communication intercepts reveals that they have been sharing tactical information between their colonies faster than should be possible with their technology level. The display showed a network diagram of human settlements connected by communication lines. Messages were flowing between worlds in near real time, despite the vast distances involved. They appear to have developed some form of quantum entanglement communication system, Nexus reported. Every successful hunting operation against one human colony immediately provides tactical intelligence to every other human settlement. They're learning from our victories and adapting their defenses accordingly. Zethrak leaned forward from his position at the table. His earlier confidence had been replaced by a grudging respect that bordered on concern. This explains how they knew to prepare for our specific capabilities. Every time we defeat one group of humans, the survivors pass on everything they learned to their entire species. But they're still primitives, insisted Krexel, though his voice lacked its earlier certainty. Their technology remains centuries behind our own. Individual superiority must still count for something. Grand Huntmaster Vex activated another display, this one showing personal combat footage from the failed Corthanian assault on the mining world of Kepler 442b. The video showed something that chilled every hunter present. On screen, a single human soldier was engaged in close combat with a Corthanian warrior, a being bred specifically for physical dominance, with natural armor, enhanced strength, and centuries of combat experience. The human was smaller, weaker, and using primitive equipment. The human won, not through superior strength or advanced technology, but through tactics that demonstrated an understanding of Corthanian physiology that should have been impossible. The human moved with practiced precision, exploiting weaknesses in Corthanian armor that most species never discovered. The engagement ended with the Corthanian warrior dead and the human barely injured. Wow, whispered Thas. How could a primitive being know to target the nerve clusters behind the third armor plate? We interrogated the surviving humans from that engagement, Vex explained grimly. They had conducted detailed analysis of our biology, our equipment, our tactics, and our psychological profiles, not just for one species, but for every hunting faction they had encountered. The display switched to show captured human documents, technical manuals, tactical guides, and training materials that demonstrated an obsessive attention to detail. The humans had cataloged every known weakness of every hunter species, developing specific strategies and equipment for each one. They study us, echo of distant stars observed with something approaching admiration. Like we study prey animals, but with an intensity that borders on obsession. More than that, Nexus added, calling up psychological profiles. They seem to treat each engagement as a learning opportunity rather than a survival situation. Their soldiers are trained to gather intelligence even while dying, to pass on tactical insights to their comrades. The evidence was overwhelming and disturbing. The humans weren't just defending themselves, they were systematically studying their enemies and developing increasingly effective countermeasures. What had started as a simple hunt was becoming something resembling a war between equals. Their numbers are also greater than initially reported, Vex continued. Intelligence now suggests over 12 billion humans spread across more than 300 worlds, and they are mobilizing their entire civilization for this conflict. New displays showed human industrial capacity shifting toward military production. Civilian manufacturing facilities were being converted to produce weapons and equipment. Entire populations were being trained for combat. The humans weren't just fighting with their military forces. They were transforming their entire species into a war machine. This is unprecedented, muttered Hunter Vax of the crystalline hegemony. Prey species are supposed to submit when faced with overwhelming force. They're supposed to recognize their place in the natural order. These humans appear to have no concept of a natural order that places them as prey, Vex replied. They seem to believe that any species that threatens them is their natural enemy, regardless of technological or physical superiority. The tactical situation was becoming clear, and it was not favorable for the hunters. What they had expected to be a leisurely hunt had become a grinding war of attrition against an enemy that learned from every defeat and grew stronger with each engagement. Perhaps, suggested Krexel carefully, we should consider withdrawing and selecting different prey for this centennial hunt. The humans have proven more challenging than anticipated, but there are other species that might provide better sport. Several hunters nodded in agreement, but Grand Huntmaster Vex raised a clawed hand for silence. Withdrawal is not an option, he declared firmly. The centennial hunt has been declared, and the galaxy is watching. If the greatest hunters in known space retreat from primitive mammals, our reputation will be destroyed forever. This brought grudging agreement from the assembled hunters. They had invested too much prestige in this hunt to simply abandon it. More importantly, the human resistance had transformed the hunt from a casual diversion into a matter of species pride. Then, we adapt our tactics, suggested Thos. If the humans learn from our victories, we must ensure they have no survivors to pass on intelligence. Agreed, said Vex. From this point forward, all human settlements must be completely destroyed with no survivors. We cannot allow them to continue learning from our methods. This decision marked a significant escalation in the conflict. The hunters were abandoning their traditional methods of selective culling and moving toward total extermination. The humans had forced them to adopt wartime tactics rather than hunting strategies. But we still face a fundamental problem, Nexus pointed out. The humans' quantum communication system means that any engagement provides intelligence to their entire species, regardless of whether there are survivors at the immediate battle site. This was a sobering realization. Even total victory in individual battles wouldn't prevent the humans from learning and adapting. The only way to stop their tactical evolution would be to somehow disrupt their communication network or achieve such rapid, overwhelming victory that they had no time to adapt. I have a proposal, said Echo of Distant Stars. The Psionic Collective has been analyzing human communication patterns. We believe their quantum network has a central hub located on their homeworld. If we could destroy this hub, their communication network would collapse, finished Nexus. Individual human colonies would be isolated and unable to share tactical intelligence. The plan had merit, but it also required a direct assault on Earth itself, the most heavily defended human world with a population of 8 billion. It would be the largest military operation in the Hunter's history, requiring coordination between all factions and massive resource expenditure. The risk is enormous, Zethrak pointed out. If we fail, we lose everything. The humans would gain access to technology and tactics from every hunting faction simultaneously. And if we succeed, Vex countered, we break their ability to coordinate resistance. Individual human colonies could be eliminated at leisure without fear of tactical intelligence sharing. The debate continued for hours, but the conclusion was inevitable. The humans had forced the hunters into an all-or-nothing strategy. They would have to risk everything on a massive assault against Earth, or face the prospect of fighting an increasingly capable enemy across hundreds of worlds. As the council broke up, and the hunters returned to their fleets to prepare for the greatest battle in galactic history, none of them realized that their communications had been quietly monitored by human intelligence assets. The entire discussion, including their planned assault on Earth, was already being transmitted to human command centers across the galaxy. The hunters had learned to respect their prey, but they still didn't understand the most crucial aspect of human nature. When faced with extinction, humans didn't just fight harder, they fought smarter. And in the depths of human space, certain individuals were preparing responses that would demonstrate just how dangerous a cornered human could be. Among the vast human military machine mobilizing for the defense of Earth, special attention was being paid to long-range reconnaissance and elimination specialists. The hunters were about to learn that humans had developed their own predators, individuals who could match any alien hunter in skill and exceed them in determination. The galaxy's greatest hunters were approaching Earth with overwhelming force and supreme confidence in their superior abilities. They had no way of knowing that they were about to encounter humans who had transformed hunting from an art into a science, and who had spent their entire lives preparing for exactly this kind of conflict. The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine whether humanity would take its place among the galaxy's apex predators, or disappear forever as another failed species that had dared to resist the natural order. Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Webb crouched motionless in his concealed position, watching the alien hunting party through the scope of his custom rifle. 3 days ago, he had been training new recruits at the Titan Defense Academy. Now he was lying in a frozen crater on Europa, waiting for the perfect shot that could change the course of humanity's war for survival. The rifle in his hands was a masterpiece of human engineering, built specifically for long-range engagement with alien targets. The weapon incorporated every lesson learned from months of desperate fighting against the galaxy's apex predators. Electromagnetic acceleration, smart ammunition, advanced targeting systems, and, most importantly, the ability to punch through energy shields that had previously made alien commanders untouchable. Webb had spent 23 years perfecting his craft, from the urban warfare of Earth's final civil conflicts to the colonial skirmishes on distant worlds. He had hunted everything from rogue artificial intelligences to modified super soldiers, but never anything like the aliens that had come to exterminate his species. The hunting party below consisted of 5 Vorthack warriors and their commander, all equipped with personal shields and advanced armor. They moved with the casual confidence of apex predators, completely unaware that they had entered the hunting ground of someone who had made killing into an art form. Webb's earpiece crackled with the voice of his spotter, Sergeant Lisa Park. Range to primary target, 800 meters. Wind speed negligible in this atmosphere. Target is moving in pattern Charlie 7. Park lay 15 meters away, using a quantum-entangled communication array to coordinate with human forces across the solar system. Every shot Webb took, every tactical lesson learned, would be instantly transmitted to sniper teams on dozens of worlds. Target acquired, Webb whispered, his crosshairs settling on the Vorthack commander's head. The alien's energy shield shimmered slightly in the thin atmosphere, but Webb's ammunition was designed specifically for this scenario. The bullet that left his rifle was more than just a projectile. It carried a quantum disruptor that would collapse energy shields on impact, followed by a penetrator core designed to defeat any known alien armor, and, finally, an explosive charge that would ensure the target didn't survive long enough to learn from the encounter. The shot was perfect. The Vorthack commander's shield failed in a brilliant flash of energy discharge. The penetrator core punched through his natural armor plating, and the explosive charge detonated inside his torso cavity. The alien warrior died before his nervous system could register what had happened. The remaining Vorthack spun around in confusion, their thermal sensors trying to locate the source of the attack. Webb was already moving, flowing through the rocky terrain with the fluid grace of a predator who had hunted in environments ranging from dense jungle to zero gravity. Second target, 350 meters, moving to cover behind the ice formation. Park whispered through the comm. Webb's second shot caught the Vorthack warrior before he reached safety. The alien's personal shield overloaded and failed, and the specially designed bullet tore through his body with devastating effect. 2 down, 3 remaining. But these weren't panicked prey animals. The surviving Vorthack were elite hunters with centuries of experience, and they adapted quickly to the new threat. They spread out, used their advanced sensors to try to locate the sniper, and began moving in a coordinated pattern designed to flush out hidden enemies. Webb smiled grimly. He had expected this response and planned accordingly. The third Vorthack died when he stepped on what appeared to be a natural ice formation, but was actually a carefully disguised human proximity mine. The explosion sent chunks of alien and ice in all directions, temporarily blinding the survivors' thermal sensors with a cloud of hot debris. Webb used the distraction to change positions, moving to a new firing point that he had prepared hours earlier. The remaining 2 Vorthack were becoming cautious now, realizing they were facing a competent enemy rather than primitive prey. "This is Iron Ghost," Webb whispered into his comm, using his operational call sign. "Package delivered. Remaining targets are adapting to sniper protocols. Recommend immediate extraction of tactical intelligence." The response came from Colonel Sarah Chun, the same officer who had commanded the doomed defense of New Melbourne. She was now coordinating human special operations across the solar system from a hidden command center deep inside the asteroid belt. "Confirmed, Iron Ghost. Intelligence indicates similar hunting parties on 17 different worlds. Your engagement data is being transmitted to all relevant assets. How many more can you eliminate? Webb studied the tactical situation through his scope. The two remaining Vorthack had taken cover behind a cluster of ice formations and were calling for support. Their ship was already moving to provide assistance, its sensors scanning for the hidden sniper. Negative on additional eliminations, Webb replied. Targets have called for backup, initiating harassment protocols and withdrawing to secondary position. What followed was a masterclass in asymmetric warfare. Webb spent the next 6 hours leading the entire Vorthack hunting party on a deadly game of cat and mouse across Europa's frozen surface. Every time they thought they had cornered him, he appeared somewhere else. Every time they adapted to his tactics, he changed methods. He used improvised explosive devices hidden in natural terrain features. He employed remote-controlled decoys to draw their fire and reveal their positions. He turned their own advanced technology against them by hacking their communication frequencies and feeding them false information. Most importantly, he recorded everything. Every alien tactic, every piece of equipment, every behavioral pattern was documented and transmitted to human intelligence centers. The Vorthack hunting party found themselves becoming unwilling test subjects in humanity's crash course on alien warfare. By the time Webb finally withdrew to his extraction point, the alien hunting party had been reduced to a single traumatized survivor who would carry news of the encounter back to his fleet. The human they had expected to hunt easily had instead hunted them with a skill and ruthlessness that exceeded their own. But Webb's mission on Europa was just one small part of a larger operation that was taking place across human space. As news of his success spread through the quantum communication network, other human snipers began implementing the tactics he had developed. On Proxima Centauri, Gunnery Sergeant Maria Santos used Webb's shield disruption techniques to eliminate an entire crystalline hegemony hunting team. The crystalline beings had thought their hard light energy forms made them immune to physical attacks, but Santos proved them wrong with weapons that combined quantum disruptors and harmonic frequency generators. In the Kepler system, Master Chief David Kim adapted Webb's psychological warfare methods to break the morale of a Goliathan hunting party. The stone-skinned giants were forced to retreat after Kim's careful campaign of terror made them afraid to leave their ships. The most spectacular success came on Titan, where Captain Elena Rodriguez used a modified version of Webb's tactics to eliminate Hunter Captain Nexus of the Machine Collective. The cybernetic being had thought her advanced computational abilities made her untouchable, but Rodriguez demonstrated that human intuition and creativity could overcome even synthetic intelligence. Each victory followed the same pattern: careful preparation, precise intelligence gathering, exploitation of alien weaknesses, and ruthless execution. The human snipers weren't just fighting back against their would-be exterminators. They were hunting the hunters. The psychological impact on the alien forces was devastating. The galaxy's apex predators discovered that their hunting expeditions had become incredibly dangerous. Species that had never known fear in countless millennia began to experience what it felt like to be prey. Grand Hunt Master Vex received the reports with growing disbelief and something approaching respect. The humans weren't just defending themselves anymore. They were actively hunting his best warriors with methods that exceeded anything in his experience. "Show me this web creature again," he ordered, reviewing the intelligence files for the 100th time. The holographic display showed an unremarkable human male in his mid-40s. Average height, average build, no visible mutations or enhancements. Yet this creature had eliminated an elite Vorthack hunting team using nothing but skill, preparation, and equipment that should have been centuries behind galactic standards. His service record indicates extensive training in what humans call special operations, reported his intelligence officer. He has been trained specifically to eliminate high-value targets behind enemy lines. His specialty is long-range elimination using primitive projectile weapons. Primitive projectiles that somehow defeat our most advanced defensive systems, Vex mused. Ow! Analysis of recovered ammunition indicates that humans have developed specific countermeasures for every known alien defensive technology, the officer replied. They appear to have reverse-engineered, captured alien equipment and created weapons specifically designed to defeat our capabilities. This was the most disturbing revelation yet. Not only were the humans fighting back, but they were doing so with weapons and tactics specifically designed to counter alien advantages. They had taken their technological inferiority and turned it into a strength by focusing on defeating superior enemy capabilities. And this web is not unique. Intelligence indicates humans have deployed at least 200 similar specialists across their territory. Each one appears to be trained for elimination of specific alien species using customized equipment and tactics. 200 hunters, each one a specialist in killing particular types of aliens. The humans had created their own apex predators, trained from birth for the specific purpose of hunting the galaxy's most dangerous species. The implications were staggering. The hunters had come to Earth expecting to find defenseless prey animals. Instead, they had discovered a species that had already evolved its own hunters, being specifically trained to kill anything that threatened their survival. As Vex studied the tactical reports, he began to realize that the humans might actually be more dangerous than any species the hunters had previously encountered. They combined the learning ability of prey animals with the tactical thinking of apex predators, creating something entirely new in the galaxy's evolutionary hierarchy. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from the Human Command Center. They're requesting a parley." Vex considered this carefully. In his centuries of hunting experience, he had never encountered a prey species that requested negotiation from a position of strength. But the humans had demonstrated they weren't typical prey, and their recent victories suggested they might actually have something to offer. "Put them through," he decided. The human who appeared on the screen was Colonel Chun, the same officer who had commanded the doomed defense of New Melbourne. But she looked different now, more confident, more dangerous. She looked like someone who had learned to fight back and discovered they were good at it. "Grand Hunt Master," she said with a slight smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I think it's time we discussed the terms of your surrender." The statement hit the bridge of the alien flagship like a physical blow. In the history of the galaxy, prey animals had never demanded the surrender of their hunters. It was a reversal of the natural order that challenged everything the aliens believed about their place in the universe. But as Vex looked at the tactical displays showing the devastating losses his forces had suffered, he realized that the old natural order might no longer apply. The humans had changed the rules of the game, and they were winning by their new rules. The greatest hunting expedition in galactic history was becoming something else entirely. A war between two apex predator species, with only one likely to survive. The assembled fleet hanging in the void above Earth represented the largest concentration of military power the galaxy had ever seen. 12 different species had contributed their most advanced warships and deadliest hunters to what Grand Huntmaster Vex had declared would be the final assault on humanity. Over 3,000 vessels surrounded the blue planet, their combined firepower capable of scouring all life from its surface. But the humans were ready. Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Webb floated in zero gravity within a specially modified stealth ship, one of 50 such vessels positioned throughout the outer solar system. Each ship carried a team of humanity's deadliest hunters, armed with weapons that had been refined through months of bitter warfare against alien invaders. "Iron Ghost, this is Overwatch," came the voice of Colonel Chun through his quantum entangled communicator. "Alien fleet deployment is proceeding according to predicted patterns. You are cleared to engage designated targets." Webb checked his equipment one final time. The weapon in his hands was no longer the rifle he had carried on Europa. Human engineers had worked around the clock to create something entirely new, a magnetic acceleration cannon capable of firing projectiles at a significant percentage of light speed. The ammunition was equally revolutionary. Quantum tunneling penetrators that could phase through energy shields and conventional armor before materializing inside the target. "Overwatch, Iron Ghost confirms target acquisition," Webb replied, his crosshairs settling on the bridge of a massive Corthanian battle cruiser. "Range, 47,000 kilometers. Weapons systems nominal." It was an impossible shot by any conventional standard. The distance was enormous, the target was moving, and space combat had never involved individual snipers engaging capital ships. But The humans had abandoned conventional thinking months ago when they realized their survival depended on rewriting the rules of warfare. The magnetic cannon discharged with a barely perceptible vibration. The projectile streaked through space at near relativistic velocity. Its quantum tunneling drive activated milliseconds before impact. The Corthanian battle cruiser's shields didn't even register the incoming threat before the penetrator materialized inside the ship's command center. The explosion that followed lit up the void like a tiny star. The battle cruiser, one of the most powerful warships in the galaxy, died in seconds as its command structure disintegrated. Across the solar system, 49 other impossible shots found their targets. Capital ships that had dominated space battles for millennia suddenly found themselves vulnerable to individual humans with the right weapons and skills. The careful formation of the alien fleet began to dissolve as command ships exploded without warning. But this was only the opening move in humanity's desperate gambit. All units, Phase 2 is now active, Chen announced. Execute Prometheus Protocol. What followed was the most audacious military operation in human history. Hidden throughout the asteroid belt, Mars, and the outer planets, thousands of human ships suddenly revealed themselves. But these weren't conventional warships. They were converted civilian vessels, mining platforms, research stations, and even luxury spacecraft that had been transformed into weapons of war. Each ship was a guided missile loaded with nuclear warheads, antimatter charges, or experimental quantum bombs. They streaked toward the alien fleet with the desperate courage of a species fighting for its existence. The crews were volunteers who knew they wouldn't survive the mission, but were determined to take as many alien ships with them as possible. The galaxy's greatest hunters found themselves facing an enemy that had turned their entire civilization into a weapon. Factory ships became battleships, mining vessels became torpedo boats, and research stations became command centers coordinating attacks across the entire solar system. Grand Huntmaster Vex watched in horrified fascination as his overwhelming fleet advantage evaporated under the human assault. Impossible, he growled from his command throne. They have turned their entire species into warriors. The tactical displays showed the scope of human preparation. Every asteroid had been hollowed out and turned into a weapons platform. Every planet bristled with hidden defenses. Every moon concealed nuclear missiles that could destroy capital ships. The humans hadn't just prepared to defend Earth. They had turned the entire solar system into a trap. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "we're detecting massive energy signatures from Earth's surface. They appear to be charging some kind of planetary defense system." Vex studied the readings with growing concern. The energy levels were unprecedented, suggesting a weapon capable of destroying entire fleets. Analysis? Unknown technology, sir. The energy patterns don't match any known weapon system. What Vex couldn't know was that humanity's greatest scientists had spent months reverse engineering captured alien technology, combining it with theoretical physics that had never been tested. The result was a gravitational manipulation device capable of creating artificial black holes, a weapon so dangerous that using it risked destroying Earth itself. But the humans had decided that extinction was preferable to surrender. As the battle raged across space, Webb and his fellow snipers continued their deadly work. They had adapted their tactics to space combat, using their impossibly accurate weapons to eliminate specific targets that could turn the tide of battle. Shield generators, weapon systems, command bridges, and reactor cores fell victim to precision shots that no alien commander had imagined possible. Iron Ghost, priority target designation coming through. Park announced from her position at the sensor station. Psionic Collective Mothership. Coordinates being transmitted now. Webb acquired the target and felt a chill of recognition. The Psionic Collective Mothership was a massive crystalline structure that served as a mobile base for the galaxy's most dangerous psychic entities. If they managed to get close to Earth, they could potentially dominate the minds of every human in the solar system. The range was extreme even by Webb standards. Over 60,000 kilometers through space filled with energy discharges and debris from the ongoing battle. But the shot was necessary, regardless of difficulty. Target acquired, Webb announced, making minute adjustments to account for the target's movement and the gravitational effects of nearby planets. Taking the shot, the quantum tunneling penetrator streaked across space, its trajectory calculated by computers that had analyzed millions of possible variables. The projectile phased through the crystalline ship's psychic barriers as if they didn't exist, then materialized inside the vessel's core structure. The mothership's destruction was spectacular, even by the standards of the current battle. Psychic energy cascaded outward in visible waves, temporarily disrupting the mental abilities of every psionic entity within 1,000 kilometers. The death of the mothership sent shockwaves through the collective's forces, breaking their coordination and leaving them vulnerable to conventional human weapons. But the aliens were adapting as well. Hunter Captain Nexus of the Machine Collective had survived her encounter with Captain Rodriguez and learned from the experience. She began coordinating a counter-assault specifically designed to neutralize human sniper teams. "Sir," Webb's communications officer announced, "we're detecting incoming missiles. Approximately 50 warheads targeted specifically at stealth sniper platforms." Webb wasn't surprised. The aliens had finally realized that the human snipers were the key to their opponent's success, and were attempting to eliminate them. It was a logical tactical decision, but the humans had anticipated this response. "All Ghost units, implement Phantom Protocol," Webb ordered. "We're going mobile." The stealth ships carrying human sniper teams suddenly revealed their true nature. They weren't just weapons platforms. They were the most advanced spacecraft humanity had ever built, incorporating every lesson learned from months of studying captured alien technology. They could outrun most alien fighters and outmaneuver anything large enough to destroy them. What followed was a three-dimensional chase scene across the solar system as alien hunters attempted to eliminate human hunters. The irony wasn't lost on Webb as he found himself being hunted by the galaxy's apex predators while simultaneously hunting them. "Iron Ghost, this is Phantom 7, came a voice from another sniper team. "I've got a clean shot on the Goliathan command ship, but I need covering fire." Webb instantly altered course, bringing his ship into position to provide support. The battle had become a complex dance of hunters hunting hunters, with each side attempting to eliminate the other's most dangerous assets. The Goliathan command ship was a massive fortress of living stone, its commander confident that his vessel's natural armor could withstand any human weapon. He was wrong. The quantum tunneling penetrator that punched through his ship's hull carried a new type of warhead, a molecular disruptor that could break down the chemical bonds in living rock. As the command ship crumbled into its component atoms, the surviving Goliathan forces began to waver. The psychological impact of seeing their strongest defenses defeated by primitive humans was devastating to their morale. Across the battlefield, similar scenes were playing out as human ingenuity and determination overcame alien technological superiority. The hunters were learning that their prey had evolved into something far more dangerous than they had ever encountered. But the climax of the battle came when Grand Huntmaster Vex himself entered direct combat. The ancient Corthanian commander had decided that if his fleet couldn't defeat the humans through conventional means, he would personally lead the assault on Earth's surface. His personal ship was a masterpiece of alien engineering, equipped with shields and armor that had protected him through centuries of the galaxy's most dangerous hunts. He didn't know that Marcus Webb had been waiting for exactly this opportunity. "Overwatch, Iron Ghost has acquired the primary target," Webb announced with grim satisfaction. "Request permission to engage." "Permission granted, Iron Ghost. All human forces are clear of your firing solution. Take the shot." Webb had been preparing for this moment since the war began. Every modification to his weapon, every improvement to his ammunition, every tactical lesson learned in months of combat had been building toward this single shot. The target was the most dangerous hunter in galactic history, protected by technology that represented the pinnacle of alien achievement. The range was impossible. The target was moving at incredible speed. Energy discharges from the ongoing battle created interference that would have made the shot hopeless for any conventional sniper. But Marcus Webb was no longer conventional by any measure. He had become something new, a human who had learned to hunt the galaxy's apex predators with skills that exceeded their own. The shot was perfect. The quantum tunneling penetrator phased through Vex's personal shields, through the hull of his advanced ship, through the ancient Corthanian's natural armor, and detonated inside his body. The Grand Huntmaster of the galaxy's greatest hunters died instantly, killed by a member of the species he had dismissed as primitive prey. With Vex's death, the alien fleet's coordination collapsed completely. The various species had only cooperated because of his personal authority and reputation. Without him, old rivalries and conflicts reasserted themselves. Some alien ships began firing on their former allies. Others simply fled the solar system rather than continue a battle that had become a slaughter. The few remaining vessels that tried to continue the assault found themselves facing the full fury of Earth's planetary defense system. The artificial black hole generator fired for the first and only time in human history. The gravitational anomaly it created lasted only seconds, but those seconds were enough to trap and destroy the remnants of what had once been the galaxy's most powerful fleet. When the battle ended, humanity stood victorious over the scattered wreckage of their would-be exterminators. The species that had been dismissed as primitive prey had proven themselves to be the deadliest hunters the galaxy had ever known. But as Marcus Webb watched the last alien ships flee Earth space, he knew that this was not the end of the conflict. It was the beginning of humanity's emergence as the new apex predator species in a galaxy that would never again underestimate the dangerous mammals from the small blue planet. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Webb stood in the observation deck of a UES Apex Predator, humanity's new flagship constructed from salvaged alien technology. The ship had been named with deliberate irony. It was built from the wreckage of Grand Huntmaster Vec's former vessel, transformed by human engineering into something that exceeded its original capabilities. Through the transparent aluminum windows, Webb could see the sprawling orbital shipyards surrounding Earth. Hundreds of vessels were under construction, each one incorporating the hard-won lessons of the war against the galaxy's former apex predators. Humanity was no longer content to simply defend itself. They were preparing to take their place as the dominant species in known space. "Magnificent, isn't it?" came a familiar voice from behind him. Webb turned to see Admiral Chen approaching, her uniform now bearing the insignia of humanity's first interstellar fleet command. The woman who had once commanded a doomed agricultural colony now controlled the most powerful military force in the galaxy. "It's certainly impressive," Webb agreed, studying the massive construction projects. "Though I sometimes wonder if we're becoming the very thing we fought against." Chun joined him at the window, her expression thoughtful. "Perhaps, but with one crucial difference. We remember what it was like to be prey. That memory will keep us from making the same mistakes the hunters made." The transformation of human society following their victory had been rapid and profound. The species that had been forced to fight for survival had discovered they possessed an aptitude for warfare that exceeded even their enemies' expectations. Human military doctrine was now being studied throughout the galaxy as the new standard for tactical innovation and strategic thinking. "Sir," announced a communications officer from across the bridge, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council." Webb and Chen exchanged glances. The Galactic Council was a loose confederation of species that had emerged from the chaos following the Hunters' defeat. Many of the galaxy's former prey species had banded together for mutual protection, while others sought to ally themselves with humanity's rising power. "Put it through," Chen ordered. The holographic display activated to show Council Speaker Drex, a reptilian being whose species had nearly been driven to extinction by Vorthak hunting parties. His scales showed the nervous color changes typical of his kind when under stress. "Admiral Chen," Drex began, his voice carrying undertones of both fear and respect, "the Council has received disturbing reports from the Rigel sector. It appears that several human hunting parties have been operating in disputed territory." Chen's expression remained neutral, but Webb could see the slight tightening around her eyes that suggested she was already aware of the situation. "Please elaborate, Speaker Drex." 3 different species have reported encounters with human forces that match the tactics used during your war against the Hunters, Drex continued carefully. "Small teams using advanced weapons and stealth technology, eliminating targets with extreme precision before disappearing without trace." Webb understood the concern. Following humanity's victory, many human military specialists have found it difficult to return to civilian life. The war had produced a generation of highly skilled hunters who had spent months learning to stalk and eliminate alien predators. Some of them had apparently decided to continue practicing their skills. The Council wishes to emphasize that these species pose no threat to humanity, Drex added quickly. They are peaceful traders and explorers who have never participated in hunting activities against any sentient species. Understood, Chen replied diplomatically. We will investigate these reports and ensure that any unauthorized human activities are addressed appropriately. The communication ended, but Webb could see that Chun was troubled by the implications. Humanity's transformation from prey to predator had created unexpected challenges. The very skills that had saved their species were now becoming a potential source of instability throughout the galaxy. We may need to establish a formal structure for those who can adapt to peacetime, Webb suggested. Channel their skills toward legitimate purposes rather than letting them operate independently. Chen nodded slowly. The Interstellar Patrol Service has been considering exactly that proposal. An elite force dedicated to protecting peaceful species from actual threats, with strict oversight and clear rules of engagement. The idea had merit, but it also raised uncomfortable questions about humanity's role in galactic affairs. Were they becoming protectors of the weak, or were they simply replacing the old hunters with a more benevolent, but equally dominant system? Their discussion was interrupted by another communication alert. This time, the caller was Hunter Zethrak, one of the few surviving Vorthak commanders who had managed to escape the destruction of his hunting fleet. The reptilian warrior appeared on screen, his scales bearing fresh scars from recent battles. But his posture suggested respect rather than hostility, a dramatic change from their previous encounters. Admiral Chun, Colonel Webb, Zethrak began, using their proper titles with careful precision. I contact you on behalf of the reformed hunting guilds. This was a new development. Following the catastrophic defeat at Earth, many surviving hunters had formed a new organization that claimed to reject the old ways of indiscriminate predation. They now presented themselves as a legitimate mercenary force available for hire by peaceful species. The reformed guilds wished to formally acknowledge humanity's dominance in matters of warfare and hunting, Zethrak continued. We offer our services to the Terran Federation as auxiliary forces, should you have need of our capabilities. Webb found the situation deeply ironic. The galaxy's former apex predators were now seeking employment with the species they had once tried to exterminate. It was a complete reversal of the natural order that had governed galactic affairs for millennia. That's a generous offer, Chen replied diplomatically. What exactly would your guilds bring to such an arrangement? Knowledge of species and territories throughout the galaxy, Zethrak explained. Combat experience against threats that humanity has not yet encountered. And, most importantly, the perspective of those who once hunted your kind. We understand predatory behavior in ways that might prove valuable. It was a compelling argument, though Webb remained skeptical about trusting former enemies so completely. The war had taught humanity to be cautious about alien motivations, even when they appeared sincere. We'll consider your proposal, Chun said finally. In the meantime, we expect the reformed guilds to maintain strict neutrality in galactic affairs and refrain from any activities that might destabilize peaceful regions. After the communication ended, Webb and Chen returned to their discussion of humanity's evolving role in the galaxy. The transformation had been so rapid and complete that many humans were still struggling to understand their new position. The psychological assessments are concerning, Chen admitted, calling up reports on her personal display. Many of our veterans are having difficulty adjusting to the absence of existential threats. They become so focused on survival and combat that peacetime feels wrong. Webb understood the feeling. He had experienced it himself in the months following their victory. The constant vigilance and deadly precision required for hunting alien predators had become second nature. Returning to a world where such skills weren't needed felt like a betrayal of everything they had fought to protect. Perhaps that's why some are seeking new conflicts, he suggested. They need to feel useful, needed. The transition from defending humanity to protecting the galaxy might provide that purpose. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Sarah Kim, humanity's leading expert on xenopsychology. She had spent the past months studying captured alien technology and interrogating surviving hunters to understand their motivations and methods. Admiral, Colonel, she greeted them with obvious excitement. I believe I've made a breakthrough in understanding why the hunters targeted us specifically. Chen gestured for her to continue, and Kim activated a complex holographic display showing various species throughout the galaxy arranged in what appeared to be an evolutionary tree. The hunters weren't just randomly selecting prey species, Kim explained. They were specifically targeting species that showed potential to become apex predators themselves. Look at the pattern of their hunts over the past millennium. The display highlighted dozens of species that had been driven to extinction by hunting parties. As Webb studied the data, a disturbing pattern became clear. Each extinct species had demonstrated some combination of intelligence, adaptability, and aggressive behavior that might have eventually made them competitors for the hunter's dominance. They were eliminating potential rivals before they could develop into real threats, Kim continued. Humanity was targeted because our rapid technological development and aggressive expansion suggested we might eventually challenge their supremacy. This revelation cast the entire conflict in a new light. The hunters hadn't simply been predators seeking easy prey. They had been a galactic immune system, eliminating any species that might upset the established order. Their defeat meant that this system had collapsed, leaving a power vacuum that humanity was naturally filling. So we weren't victims, Webb realized. We were the next generation of apex predators, and they tried to stop our evolution. Exactly, Kim confirmed. And now that we've proven ourselves, other species are looking to us to maintain galactic stability. We've inherited the role whether we wanted it or not. The implications were staggering. Humanity had won more than just their survival. They had claimed the position of the galaxy's dominant species by right of conquest. But unlike the previous rulers, they had the opportunity to build something better. The question, Chen said thoughtfully, is what kind of galactic order we want to create. Do we become benevolent protectors? Neutral arbitrators? Or do we risk becoming the very monsters we defeated? Webb considered the question while watching construction continue on the orbital shipyards. Somewhere among those vessels, human engineers were building ships that would carry their species to distant stars. The children of Earth were about to spread across the galaxy as its new apex predators. We become what we choose to become, he said finally. The hunters made their choice to dominate through fear and violence. We can make a different choice. Over the following months, humanity began implementing that different choice. The Interstellar Patrol Service was established with strict protocols for intervention in galactic conflicts. The reformed hunting guilds were integrated into a new peacekeeping force that combined human tactical innovation with alien knowledge and experience. Most importantly, humanity established the Predator Accords, a set of principles that would govern their behavior as the galaxy's new apex species. The Accords emphasized protection of the weak, prevention of genocide, and the promotion of peaceful coexistence between all sentient species. Marcus Webb was among the first to sign the Accords, formally accepting the responsibility that came with humanity's new power. As he put his name to the document, he reflected on how far they had come from the terrified prey animals the hunters had expected to find. The galaxy had scoffed at humanity until one species changed everything. Now those same beings looked to humans for protection and guidance, secure in the knowledge that the new apex predators remembered what it was like to be prey. The transformation was complete, but the real test would come in the years ahead as humanity learned to wield their power wisely. The galaxy was watching, waiting to see whether Earth's children would prove worthy of the dominance they had claimed through blood and sacrifice. Standing on the bridge of humanity's flagship, surrounded by technology that represented the fusion of human ingenuity and alien science, Webb felt the weight of that responsibility. The sniper who had once hunted the galaxy's deadliest predators had become something greater, a guardian charged with protecting an entire galaxy from the darkness that had once threatened to consume his own species. The hunt was over. The age of human dominance had begun.